Now, a delegation of 5 members of the Israeli parliament led by MK Dr Nachman Shai arrived in South Africa last week. The visit was about promoting dialogue, understanding and cooperation between Israel and South Africa. The delegation met with leaders from across the South African political spectrum, senior ANC member Nkosasana Dlamini-Zuma, former President Kgalema Mothlanthe, the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, as well as Mmusi Maimane, the head of the DA. The delegation held meetings in Parliament and met with members of the DA, COPE, ACDP, IFP and Freedom Front Plus. We've got Dr Nachman Shai with us here in studio, and as mentioned, he's an Israeli MP heading up this delegation in South Africa. Good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me in the studio.
You have been exceptionally busy. I mean, you've basically met with every political party here in South Africa.
Unprecedentedly, because as you know, there were some attempts to block our visit here and to convince us not to come because some members of the ANC refused to see us, but it happened just the opposite. We were nicely welcomed everywhere we went, and I have to just salute to our colleagues from the parliament and many other people, citizens of this country that we met, and we learned a lot about South Africa, and I'm very optimistic about the future relations between South Africa and Israel. Yeah. I think we have a lot to do together.
So obviously, as you mentioned, the initial reaction to the visit was a little bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Why did you want to come? What was the whole idea behind it?
Well, I'm a member of the Knesset, and one of our missions is to build relations with other parliaments all around the world. This is a P2P relations. It's called even parliamentary diplomacy. It's part of our duties as members of the Knesset. I've done it in other countries in the world as well. And South Africa is no doubt a key state in Africa, and we have a long history. So the reason was, so the goal was to come and talk to both members of the parliament, government officials if possible, and the Jewish community here. Don't forget that there are around 70,000 Jews living both in Johannesburg and Pretoria. Yeah. And we would like to talk to them and to listen to them, and they are very eager to hear what's going on in Israel. So it's a perfect plan to come and visit your country. Yeah. Beautiful country, I should say.
I want to talk more about the meetings that were held with the ANC, because I see that there were a lot with the opposition parties, but particularly with the ANC. Obviously, you have somebody who's very highly held in regard within the ANC, and perhaps the next president of the ANC,
yeah,
Dr Nkosasana Dlamini-Zuma.
What else you expect? 50% as far as I know.
How were the discussions with her, and what were some of the discussions you held?
We discussed, she listened more than spoke. Actually, she listened to us, which I believe is the best way, because we don't always have an access to come and talk to South African politicians. And we talked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which we all trying to solve one day. And we talked about Israel-South African relations. And then she spoke as well. It went on like 45 minutes. I was always very curious to hear her. You know, she's quite a leading personality in this country, and it was fascinating.
Well, she certainly is. But the reality is that you were rejected by other ANC MPs.
I couldn't care less between us.
You couldn't?
No. What's the point? We have to talk to each other. Some enemies do, and there's no animosity between South Africa and Israel. But we talk to our enemies. We talk everywhere in the world. The basic is to maintain a dialogue and to understand each other. And even if we argue with each other, so what's wrong about that? I'm used to it. That's part of our political life, and that's true about relations between two states sometimes. That's the case between us and the Palestinians. What we are trying to urge the Palestinians and to come and talk to us. Boycott is not a way of living. Boycott is just a big mistake.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, what you're referring to, and just to put viewers into the conversation, and this thorny issue as to why there was a little bit of negativity towards this visit, is the Israeli settlements into Palestinian, which is seen to be undermining the two-state solution on the dispute between the two groups. So how do you explain it to members that are very pro-Palestinian?
First of all, I'm a member of the opposition in Israel. We are 5. We had 2 representatives of the coalition, of the government, and 3 from the opposition. So the only place on earth that we had a majority was here in South Africa during this visit. And I expressed my own view. I am not in favor of settlements, personally. And I'm trying to argue with the government not to expand the settlements. And I believe that one day when we have, finally we reach a solution between us and the Palestinians, most of the settlements will be removed. We will remain in 2 or 3 major blocks on the West Bank. We'll exchange lands between us and the Palestinians, and we'll finally solve this long-time conflict. The representative of the coalition tried to convince anyone, wherever we go, that settlements are not blocking future solution between us and Palestinians. So that's part of our life. And by the way, it's good that we have more than one position in Israel. That's part of democracy. And every 3 or 4 years there are elections, and once it's them and then it's us. So that's but let me tell you, the entire, I would say the majority, the vast majority of the Israelis would like to reach a peaceful agreement between us and the Palestinians. We understand that the only way that finally we can live together is by having 2 states, one for the Palestinians and one for Israel. And that's the only viable solution. I don't know of anything else better than this one.
Do you think that this would be the solution to the ongoing violence?
Violence is part of life, unfortunately, but violence is going down in Israel. When I compare the situation in Israel to other world's major cities in our world, the last case is Barcelona. Well, I can only praise the Israeli security forces. We can keep it down. And also life continue for Palestinians and Israelis living together anyhow. You know that over 150,000 Palestinians work in Israel and within Israeli settlements. And we are very happy that we can live together by providing their jobs and so on. It's really something that encouraged me very much, that life continue even under terror. But in general, the level of terror is low, very low. And again, one day it will stop. I'm planning the future for my grandchildren now, not for myself. I won't live forever. And I hope very much that when I leave my position, and my colleagues as well, my grandchildren will live in peace with the Palestinian children.
I want to get back to your previous answer, because we were talking about the Israeli settlements in Palestinian territory, which was deemed illegal now by the United Nations. I think it was in December last year.
Yeah.
What's happened since?
Well, I don't know. There's a number of settlements within the territories. Again, as I said before, I don't really support them. But we are not in the government. This is a government policy. And by the way, there are no more new settlements and not even expansion of the present ones. Around 400,000 Israelis living on the West Bank. And as I said before, in any future solution, most of them will return to the pre-67 borders of Israel, the borders before the 6-day war. I have no doubt about that. But let me tell you something. The South African people, that's what we said everywhere we went. You have to help us to convince the Palestinians also to give up their idea of one state for 2 people. One state for 2 people is not viable, because there are Palestinians as well as Israelis that say, okay, live together in one state. It won't work. Each state is entitled to have its own independence, sovereignty, freedom. The 2 people, the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. That's the best way I can think of.
Yeah. All right. Is this wrapping up your visit to South Africa? Do you think it's been a success?
Very much so. I'm very happy I came. We took 8 days of our busy schedule and we came to South Africa. We learned a lot about the country. We met other people. We visited the many places. And of course, I should mention again, there is a very strong and active Jewish community in this country, both in Johannesburg, in Pretoria, people that have been involved in the struggle of the South African people for independence. That fact should be time and again being reminded. And this dialogue between Jews all over the world is our history. There are just 14.5 million Jews living all around the world, and we should keep in touch with each other, because otherwise we lose them.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. I'm glad you felt it was a success, and thank you for visiting us.
You're most welcome. Good luck to you too.
Thank you very, very much. All right, that was Dr. Nachman Shai. He's heading the Israeli delegation that's currently in South Africa to strengthen bilateral cooperation between the 2 countries. Let's take a break. We'll see you after this.